Welcome to another episode of the Engaged Parish Podcast brought to you by eCatholic. Today's guest is the CEO of eCatholic, Jason Jaynes. Jason has an extensive background in the tech world. After working 6 years as a leader at eCatholic and alongside our founder, Josh Simmons, Jason was named as eCatholic's president and CEO by Josh at the beginning of 2025. During today's episode, we'll get to learn about Jason's background. We'll also hear from him about where eCatholic is headed and how he plans to serve the church and lead eCatholic's mission into the future. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome to the podcast, Jason Jaynes. Jason, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Really glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. So Jason, as we begin our conversation, can you just give us a little bit about you and your upbringing and your background? Tell us a little bit about Jason.
Yeah, sure. I think the best place to start is in the present day and just talk a little bit about myself and my family. My wife and I have been married for 25 years. We actually just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary last October. So we've been extremely blessed to be together and to be able to share a life together. We have 3 beautiful children. The oldest 2 are in college now, and my youngest is still in high school. So we're starting to contemplate what life looks like with an empty house. And that's both scary and a bit exhilarating all at the same time. I think when I think about my family and specifically my wife and my children, we've spent our entire life, my wife and I, since we got married, really focused on the concept and the idea of building a strong, loving family around Christ. And we've had the good fortune to do that through our home parish here in Austin, Texas, which is St. Catherine of Siena Catholic Church. And I've raised all 3 of my children here in Austin, and it's been really fun to just see them go on and grow. And it's been a joy for both my wife and I.
So I know this, but obviously our guests don't. You and your wife have an interesting story. Can you tell us about when it was that you actually when you guys first met each other?
Yeah. So, like I said, we've been married for 25 years, but we actually first met when we were probably around 3 years old. I have a twin sister who was in dance, and my wife was also in dance. And so they were involved in the same dance studio way back then in a small town in South Texas called Victoria, Texas. That's where I grew up. And of course, at that point in time, my wife and I didn't really, we didn't really necessarily care for each other. We were really young. But a funny story that I remember from that, and I have the picture, we actually brought it out at our wedding, is we both went to the same Catholic church in Victoria, and we were in the same First Communion class. And there's actually a picture of me kneeling down in front of my wife for First Communion. So that's it's been really awesome to be able to share that with her. And just having known her for so long. We didn't actually start dating until we got into high school. I think before that, I was just that annoying boy that my wife wanted to have nothing to do with. And then our junior year of high school, we started dating, and we're fortunate to date all the way through college. We both went to Texas A&M and then got married shortly after she graduated from A&M with her master's degree. And I was already actually up in the Dallas area working. So funny story.
I do want to get back to your faith journey, because I know that's been a very interesting path that you've taken. Before I do that, I just want to ask you about one of your hobbies, because I know you're big into sailing. When you were named the CEO of eCatholic, Josh even gave you a captain's sailing wheel as kind of a gift for you becoming the CEO. But could you tell us about your love for sailing? And also I have a question. You're in Texas. Where the heck do you sail in Texas?
Well, there's this big thing called the Gulf of Mexico, or I guess now called the Gulf of America, that's off the coast of Texas. And the town where I grew up is about 45 minutes in from the water. If you know anything about the water down in the Gulf of Mexico, it's dark, it's dirty, it's not overly favorable to a lot of people. But from as long as I can remember, probably before I could even walk, both my mom and my dad had a love for sailing as well. And so we used to go down to Matagorda Bay and Matagorda Beach, and they had a sailboat that they would go out sailing in, a little day sailor. And we would get down as kids. I still remember sleeping down below in the cabin, in the cockpit, or out in the cockpit while we were sailing around. And so the beach, the water has been really a big part of my life for forever. And then later in life, when I got to high school, my mom kind of continued her love for sailing and owned a sailboat in Port Lavaca. And we used to spend our weekends down there and sailing in the intercoastal waterways. And so like anybody, as I grew up and took on my professional career, time was limited. But when my wife and I first got married, we wanted to do something together. So we ended up buying a sailboat. And it was a McGregor 26, a little day sailor, trailerable sailboat. And we lived in close to Lake Grapevine in Coppell, Texas, outside of Dallas. And that's where we kept our boat for 5 years and spent a lot of time on the lakes on the weekends, just sailing. And it's such a peaceful time for me. It's a time where I can get away from the noise and just be out in nature and enjoy it. And I find it to be extremely relaxing. And so that was my love for sailing and where that all came from. And when my first son was born back around the 2004 timeframe, my wife and I decided, okay, we're not going to really have time to spend time doing this. We need to dedicate the time to our family. So we sold the sailboat. We moved to Austin, and I kind of hung up my skipper desires for a while. And then I was able to rekindle those in 2022 when my dad brought up the idea of going on a sailing adventure to the British Virgin Islands and renting a 45-foot catamaran. He had skippered boats down in the BVI many years before and wanted to repeat that experience. And so he said, but you need to be the one to skipper us. So I had to go back and get some more education and practice, and was able to do that. And then fortunately was able to repeat that experience in October of last year with my wife and 3 of our really close friends. We went to the Ionian Islands, which is on the west coast of Greece. And I skippered a 45-foot catamaran around the Ionian Islands with our friends to celebrate my wife and I's 25th anniversary. So it's a big love of mine. It's a hobby that I have and something that I enjoy doing just to get away from the normal day-to-day of everything.
I do want to circle back on your faith journey because you have quite an interesting one. Can you bring us through that journey and talk about how it's strengthened your Catholic faith and ultimately kind of shaped your career?
Yeah, when I think back to my faith journey, I think there's really three people that I attribute most to where I am today. My 2 of them being my parents, my mom and my dad, and then the third being my wife. And my parents, when I was young, decided to get divorced. But I think the thing that I'll say is that both of them were always very much a part of my life and my twin sister's life and my younger brother's life. And then they made an instrumental impact on us. And I never felt like, even though I didn't live under the same roof as both of them, that I was missing anything on either front. And my mom was raised Catholic and had a strong Catholic faith. My dad was raised Protestant. And so when they got married, they decided that they were going to raise us in the Catholic faith. But then when they got divorced, my dad went back and really started focusing on practicing his Protestant faith. Well, my mom obviously continued to focus the Catholic faith. And so, I think really funny story I'll tell, and I think it kind of leads into the question that you're asking, is that at an early age, I was an altar boy with my younger brother. And so every other weekend we would go stay with my dad. And my dad was at that time, going to, I think it was a Presbyterian church. We ultimately ended up going to a Southern Baptist church as well, which had an impact on my faith journey. I'll talk about that in a second. But my mom still required us to be altar boys. And so every Sunday morning, we were typically altar boys at our church at 9 a.m. And she would come pick us up when we were staying at my dad's house. We would go to church, and then she would bring us back and drop us off with my dad, and he would take us to church. And so my brother and I fondly called that double headers. So we pulled double headers, and I joke around about it, but I think it was really a unique, interesting opportunity for me at an early age as I was growing up and through my high school years to get exposure to different faiths and different ways that people approach their religion. And it was eye-opening because it challenged me to think more about my own faith journey and where I wanted to be. And when I got to high school, I was very attracted to the Southern Baptist Youth Group, which was where my dad and my stepmom and my my stepsister and stepbrother were going, and it was a great youth group. I have great friends, and it made a real impact on my life. And I think for the first time, it opened my eyes to this idea of a personal relationship with Christ that I didn't necessarily, I'll say, feel. I knew Christ was there, but didn't necessarily feel it coming from my Catholic faith. And so it was this really unique journey for me to explore that and deepen my faith that way. And ultimately, I mentioned at the beginning, my wife having a big impact on my faith journey, because when we started dating our junior year, she grew up Catholic and wanted to be part of, continuing her Catholic faith. And so we talked a lot about it, and I wanted to be with her on the weekend. So I would go to church with her again and on Sundays, and really through her and her family, along with my mom's persistence, just continued to model my Catholic faith. And so there's really was no doubt for either one of us when we got married that that Catholicism was the faith that we wanted to practice, and we've been fortunate to do that.
And obviously, we'll get to this part in your story, but that ended up having an impact on your career and ultimately you coming onto eCatholic. And, it's just an amazing story of kind of how the Holy Spirit moves. We'll get to that. But could you bring us through your background in the tech field, and how has your career progressed up to this point where now you're the CEO of eCatholic?
Yeah, I won't bore you with all the different details, but just kind of give you a high level recap. So I've always had a love for computers my entire life. I think I wrote my first computer program when I was 8 years old, believe it or not. And it was in BASIC. And my parents were always really good about giving me access to computers, which I think helped. And I used to watch my dad. Finally remember watching my dad at night times. He was a doctor, but he recognized the power of computers and what they could do for making his life better, and his patient's life better. And so technology was important. So I got to watch him fiddle with things and just persevere through it. And so I kind of grew, had an overarching interest from that, and went off to college. And originally I wanted to go to college and get both a degree in computer science and then go on to medical school. And because my sophomore year, I decided that, I think this computer science thing is for me. And so that's where I ended up spending the rest of my time, and got an undergrad in computer science. And after I graduated, I knew I wanted to do programming, but I didn't want to be stuck behind a computer. And so I took on a consulting job with a company called Anderson Consulting. You've probably heard of it before. They're now known as Accenture. And it was the late 90s, and had the opportunity to kind of travel around and work for Fortune 500 companies that were trying to figure out how to get a web presence up and going. So I was getting to work with some of the early technology around all of that. And it was through that my journey kind of began, because I took a lot of twists and turns. I always kind of had this desire, I had this entrepreneurial spirit, and I lived in an age which really drove the idea of being an entrepreneur. And so I very quickly wanted to get out from being in a big company, and ended up going to work for a Bay Area startup of all things, and took on a role in sales as a sales engineer, because I was like, man, if I'm really going to understand how this works, I need to get to as close to the customer as I possibly can, but I still want to have the balance of technology. And from there, worked for a number of different companies in the security space and learned a ton about security. And it was then that I made a transition into product management. And I think that was when I finally realized, wow, this product management thing is amazing, because it takes all of the skills that I had acquired up to that point in time and puts them together, whether it's interfacing with the customers, being able to speak the language of developers, and being able to figure out what products that we needed to build and bring to market. And so we ended up moving back to Austin from Dallas in 2006, so I could pursue my MBA at UT. And the reason I did that was because I knew that I was kind of lacking that business acumen and business knowledge, and I wanted to get that. I wasn't necessarily fast tracking down that path with my job. And that opened up the opportunity to come into the Austin startup world and work for a lot of different startup companies, some of them successful, some of them not so successful, and play a lot of different roles. I've had the opportunity to be a developer. I've had the opportunity to be in sales. I've had the opportunity to be in marketing. I've had the opportunity to be in product management, spent a long time in product management in my career. and then kind of moved into a more operationally minded roles as I got later into my career path before I came to eCatholic. But the one thing that I'll kind of set up the transition for here, and I think it transitions nicely in my career path of how I got to eCatholic, is it goes all the way back to 2012 when I first met Josh, and that's an interesting story that I can tell you about.
Yeah, please do. Because you didn't work for eCatholic in 2012. So tell us about that first meeting with Josh and how that ultimately led to you getting a job at eCatholic years down the road.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how the Lord works, and you don't really see it, when you're there. But as you get to where you are and you look back, you realize there are moments where you truly aren't necessarily in control as much as we think that we are. And I had co-founded a company in 2011 with a guy that I had worked with all the way back in my time at Anderson Consulting in the late 90s, and we had this company called Aptive, and we believed that our hypothesis was that every small business was going to have a native app. So just like every small business has a website, every small business has a Facebook page, we believed every small business was going to have a native app that people would install on their phone. So our goal was to democratize the process for creating native apps, because we knew that not every small business could afford to go spend tens of thousands of dollars having a custom developer build it. And so we built a platform that did that. And it was through that I started working with my local parish, St. Catherine's, to build an app for them. And I started investigating, kind of looking into that further, and was like, who powers the website for St. Catherine? And realized, oh wow, it's this company called eCatholic. And then I looked into that a little further and realized that they were based in College Station, and the founder was an Aggie. And I was like, man, this is great. I got to reach out to him and see if there's a way we can partner and work together, because I'd love to find a way to bring our technology to all the Catholic churches. And so I I remember calling into the support line, and I won't name his name, but he's still with the company. He's our oldest and longest standing employee, and amazing person and support person. And he answered the phone, and I introduced myself and explained what it was I did, and said that I wanted to talk to Josh. And he quickly told me that they don't partner and they weren't interested, and hung up the phone. And that was my first attempt. Fortunately, I was able to use my Aggie network to find another way into Josh, and got to meet him for the first time in 2012, and pitch this idea of partnering. And that started this journey that Josh and we never did partner. Josh rightfully was not a believer that every church needed an app. And I think that, if you fast forward to where we are today, that speaks true. Every church does need a website. They don't need an app. And so he was right about that, but it set up this long journey of multiple twists and turns, where Josh and I's relationship grew as I jumped from company to company, and Josh stayed steadfast in his goal at eCatholic. And it all led to this point in late 2018, where the company I was at, a startup company, shut down. And I picked up the phone on a Sunday after we had closed the doors the previous Friday, and called Josh and said, I'm looking for a job. I'd love to come work at eCatholic. And Josh immediately called me back. He didn't answer because he was actually dropping off eCatholic employees for a team week that they had just finished in December, ironically. But he called me back and said, yeah, let's meet at our regular location, our regular breakfast spot, and talk. And we did Monday morning, and he had offer in hand, and the rest is kind of history.
Wow. And I'm curious. So you worked for these secular companies, probably working with massive clients that have huge budgets. What drew you to the mission at eCatholic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's accurate. I had this opportunity. I've seen a lot of different companies covering a lot of different spaces and with a lot of different focuses. And I think for me, the thing that drew me to eCatholic was a couple of things. First of all, it was Josh, and it was if you've ever met Josh, and you've seen the fruits of what he's been able to do here at eCatholic and bring. He's just a genuine, real individual, and I knew that was somebody that I wanted to work with and partner with. And then, more importantly, not secondarily, but the second reason was it was this great opportunity. I've been looking my whole career, even going back to Aptive, of a way that I could bring my gifts that I felt like I was blessed with in a way that I could serve the church. And I saw this really unique opportunity to join eCatholic and bring all of the experience that I had gained up to that point over the previous 20 plus years and bring that into this company, eCatholic, so that we could go achieve this mission that Josh had set out from the very beginning in 2005 to achieve. And that was simply just our mission is to help the church fulfill her mission of evangelization. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And that's what we do every day. And I could think of no better way to be able to accomplish that than being here at eCatholic right now.
Yeah, I know that rings true for everyone that works at eCatholic. Everyone was drawn to the mission. Certainly, Josh's leadership over the last 2 decades has been a huge part of that as well. And you're taking the torch forward. So now, fast forward, you're now at eCatholic 6 years as of now.
Yeah.
Could you go through the different roles that you've had and some of the highlights over the last 6 years?
Yeah, I think, thinking about that question, the easiest way to answer that is to kind of break it into 3 chapters, if you will, 3 2-year chapters. The first chapter the first 2 years, if you will, that I was here, a lot of the focus that I had when Josh brought me on, he said, look, I know that we're headed in the right direction. We have so much opportunity. We're just scratching the surface of what we can do as a company, but we need to make sure we have the right infrastructure and foundation in place. And so that first chapter was really all about setting that foundation and making sure we were prepared to scale. Then from there, of course, COVID hit, and I can tell you some stories about that. But then we moved into kind of the next 2 years where we felt like we had a strong foundation, and now it was time to start investing in this vision and the mission that we were on, but this vision that Josh had to build this engagement platform for the Catholic Church. And so we spent a good 2 years both investing internally to do that. We also bought a software company and can talk a little bit more about that. And then the final 2 years is kind of bring us to where we are today, has been about starting to realize those investments and how can we bring them all together to really get to this long-term goal that we have to be the engagement platform of the church. And so through all of that, I've worn the title of COO, but man, I've worn pretty much every hat in the company all the way up to now. Been fortunate to wear the CEO hat.
Yeah, you mentioned sort of these 2-year segments over the past 6 years you've been at eCatholic. Could you dive a little bit deeper into what sort of, you don't have to give all the details, but what did each period entail at a high level, or what were some of the highlights for you as you look past those 3 chapters that you mentioned?
Yeah, when I think back to the beginning in 2019, ironically, I was employee number 19 at the company. And fast forward today, we've doubled the size of our company in terms of numbers of employees. But we've also doubled our customer base, and we've more than doubled the number of products that we have. So when I first got here in 2019, we, for all intents and purposes, had our website platform, the website product, which majority of our customers know us for. But we also had other products that were kind of based off of that, like our payments platform and our live streaming platform. And so the first, 2 years here was really looking at the organization and assessing what people we had. Did we have the right people in the right seats? Did we have an infrastructure and a foundation, and were we adopting the right processes from a development perspective and an organizational perspective that would really allow us to move quickly and efficiently? And so spent a lot of time focused there. A great example of that is in 2019, I was fortunate to bring over a fellow engineer that I had worked with at 3 different companies prior to eCatholic, and had just an immense amount of trust in him. And I brought him on to really kind of look at our infrastructure and grade us on security and reliability and stability. And then from that, we use that as the basis to kind of build the whole thing back up again from ground up, so that we could build an engineering organization around it. And that was a big investment we made in 2019 to make our products more secure, more reliable, more scalable. Things that, a lot of times customers don't realize that you're doing behind the scenes, but you have to do to keep up and to make sure that they get the service that they're expecting. These are investments we're constantly making. And, one quick kind of story I'll tell you is when I still remember this fondly, when COVID hit. I think everybody has their COVID story in 2020, but we had built and launched this new infrastructure with the platform and the products that we felt we could maintain and that was scalable. But we knew that there was more work that we needed to do to make the sites even more scalable and more performant. And so the engineer that I was talking about, Anthony, began work in late 2019 after we got project number one out of the way to build a new caching layer for our website platform. We called it Site Cache internally. And we knew that it was going to be an important part of our ability to scale. Once again, we didn't know how important it would be from a timing perspective. And once again, I think this is the providential side of God's hand being involved in eCatholic from, going back to the beginning with Josh, but really every step of the way. And I was sitting at the table in the spring of 2020 when we all got the announcements that everything was shutting down because of COVID. And everybody was trying to figure out what they were going to do. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was with my daughter at the table, and I told her, I said, hey, I'm going to teach you how to play hearts because we're going to have a lot of time on our hands together, and I think it'd be fun to learn a card game that we can play. And then all of a sudden, my phone just lit up with alerts about the infrastructure, and servers weren't keeping up, and immediately began to look at it. And what was happening was everybody at the same time was trying to figure out, well, what does this mean for church tomorrow? Are we going to church tomorrow? What's my church doing? Are they going to live stream mass? How can I continue to maintain the spiritual aspect of my life? And that began an immediate, I think it was about a 36-hour sprint by Anthony and I to do everything that we could to get his site caching system deployed and up and running. We just took off from there. The scale was massive, and we wouldn't have been able to handle the scale had we not been working on that and not been at the point that we were. There's a little thing we say internally, funny enough, at eCatholic, Ash Wednesday. For whatever reason, I think if you're Catholic, you probably know why it's one of the biggest traffic days of the year for us. Funny enough, it's not even a holy day of obligation. And every year we get spikes. And what we said is once COVID hit, every day was Ash Wednesday times 10. And so we were just really right place, right time, providential hand of God to be able to get that out and make sure everything stayed up for the customers.
Why is it important for eCatholic to continue developing the core products, but also creating new ones? I mean, I look out there and sure, I mean, there's a lot of good things happening in the church, don't get me wrong, but we're also seeing closures. It's hard to even tell what the next 5 years could look like in the church. But why does eCatholic continue to do what we do?
Yeah, it's a really good question. When I sit back and think about it, I think it comes down to two things, and you kind of touched on it, Mike. Churches are being asked to do more with less. When you go talk to parishes and to our customers and dioceses and even schools and ministries, there's less people that are being asked to do more jobs. And so the last thing that they need is confusing technology that requires them to spend more time, not less time, accomplishing what they should be focused on, which is their mission and being out and evangelizing. And so number one is we need to enable and equip our customers to do more with less. And I think the second part of that is that the digital world is the way that we get people's attention now. And you have to be present in the digital world in order to be there so people can hear you. And that's through your website. It's by being available for live streaming. It's, being able to reach out and touch your flock or your community at the right time with the right message, whether it's over email or text, and the right language. And it's understanding your base too. And so we fundamentally, and that's really what we're all about, right? With the engagement platform of the Catholic Church, we are poised to be that company that delivers that value across the board, whether it's your website or your payments and digital offering or live streaming or your church management system, or now how are you going to communicate? You can come to eCatholic. We are a one-stop shop for that, and we're doing everything that we can to make that holistic through one product, through one platform and one experience. So at the end of the day, we get back to really serving those two things, allowing our customers to do more with less and allowing them to cut through that signal to noise ratio in the digital world and reach their flock and community where they are.
Yeah, you mentioned this term a few times, engagement platform, and it's something we've coined here at eCatholic, but you had mentioned earlier, even though we've sort of publicly unveiled it this year, it goes back quite a few years with visions that you and Josh and the rest of the leadership team have put together. What exactly does this term engagement platform mean? And you kind of alluded to this, but
Yeah.
why should parishes and other Catholic organizations care?
Yeah, I mean, if the church's mission it is to evangelize the world and bring Christ to the world, they need to be able to engage people where they are, and they need to be able to, once they've engaged them, have a front door mat that's welcoming and beautiful and that attracts and brings people in. I think our goal as a company is, and Carlo Acutis has been in the spotlight here lately because he's going to be canonized and the first millennial saint and the internet saint, and there's a lot of really cool things that have been attributed to him. But one of the things that stands out to me is that he talked about, he built websites to talk about the Eucharistic miracles across the world because he wanted to engage people and make them aware of things that they hadn't known about or they couldn't find in other ways. But ultimately he wanted them to go online to be attracted to go offline. And I think that embodies the spirit of what we're trying to do with the engagement platform. We want to allow parishes, allow schools, allow dioceses to engage their flock in an online way so that they can bring them offline back into the church, back into the community, back into being part of a community and being present with one another, because that's what we're called to do. The whole Pope Francis, I think he said, and I think it's been said many times, but I recently heard this one with reflecting on the life of Pope Francis as he passed away, and it was this notion that the church doesn't have a mission, the church is a mission, and that mission starts with each and every one of us going out and meeting people where they are and loving them where they are. And that's how we start the dialogue. But then think about the beauty that the church provides. How do you display that beauty? Well, if we can bring that beauty to people online through branding and representing the beauty of a parish and the front door to invite those people back in to be part of that community and then keep them engaged in that community and all the different ways that they can be part of it, that's what the engagement platform is. Those are the tools that we're building. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned Carlo Acutis. I don't know when we'll release this episode, but we're recording here on the feast of St. Joseph the Worker, who's also another patron. And obviously, John Paul II is a huge patron of Josh's and of eCatholics. And, you mentioned Carlo. I think Chris Stefanik in the film said that line succinctly. His whole mission with the websites, as you mentioned, was to get people off the internet and back into the pews,
Yep.
to engage with the church, engage with the sacraments. And certainly that resonates strongly with us here at eCatholic. I know you've been behind a lot of, and there's so many to cover, so many of the new features that have come through eCatholic products, not just our websites, but obviously Connect, our exciting new messaging platform, online giving and payments, live streaming even. Could you go through just a few of some of the recent features that you're really excited about that we now deliver to our clients through those products?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that I'll start with that's really fresh and new, if you're an eCatholic customer, you've probably experienced this. Maybe you've not been overly excited about it, but you've experienced it, is this notion of a unified login or single sign-on. Prior to, we're rolling single sign-on across all of our products because we realize that people that are administering the website are the same people that are administering live streaming, the same people that are administering their online giving and pay and their church management system. And they're the ones that need to be able to be in a position to communicate with their flock. And so we're trying to bring that all together through this unified platform. And the first step is single sign-on. And from there, so many things will come. I would say the product that immediately strikes a nerve, because it's just the first product that we're really I think is showing off what we're capable of and where we're going is our new communications product called eCatholic Connect. And that's been a journey that started really back in 2022 when we started looking into this idea of adding communications to the website platform, because we felt like the website did a really good job in a pull type way of bringing people to the front door, but we needed to complement that with a push type way for people to be able to reach out, and the two had to be connected together. And so we've got a really powerful platform now with Connect, which allows you to communicate directly with your parish, directly with your flock over email and text messaging. Those are the two mediums we're starting with. It's not where we're stopping. The great thing is we've built this amazing technology platform at ground, at the ground zero that Connect is built on top of. But we're just kind of getting started there. There's going to be other products that we'll be releasing on that platform to complement what we're already doing with websites. But other things that come to mind are integrations now between Connect and the website. Getting back to doing more with less. We want to make it really easy for our website customers to be able to take advantage of Connect and to make it easy for people to sign up to be part of the parish bulletin distribution list, or to be able to sign up for a very specific ministry in the church. We don't want them to have to think how they're going to do that. We just want it to be simple. Drop a widget on a page and allow that. The other thing that I think is really exciting to me, and this isn't necessarily new, but it's been around for a while, is the Catholic content that we bring to our website platform. We're constantly innovating there and bringing new ways that our customers can very quickly add to the story that they're telling to their parishioners and to their flock, with new forms of Catholic content right on the website that they don't even have to do anything. It shows up and it changes day by day, whether it's, partnerships with Word on Fire. I mean, even excited about, we just launched today, the Engaged Parish Podcast module, which is now available for our website customers. So I think that's another really powerful thing. And then I could probably go on for a while, but let me just talk about two other things that come to mind. Find a Mass. This is something that we launched last year in tandem with the National Eucharistic Congress and the Archdiocese of LA, who's been an amazing partner of ours as we've supported them in their digital strategy. Sarah Yaklick has been just absolutely phenomenal, and love working with her. She's a real passion for what she does, and a standout in really in the Catholic space on the marketing and media front. And we had the opportunity to partner with them to bring Find a Mass forward. And the great thing about it is that there are a lot of mass finders that are out there, but a lot of them require manual upkeep to keep mass times up to date, et cetera. But because we have this great Catholic capability, we have this own thing within our website platform called Mass Time, where our parish customers can go in and actually set out their mass schedule, including holy days of obligations, et cetera. And it does really unique things to pop up on the homepage right before Mass is starting. We even have what we call Catholic mode, which means it stays up for 15 minutes after Mass starts, because everybody knows good Catholics are always on time to Mass. But that data then automatically feeds into Find a Mass. And so now every parish's Mass time, confession time, adoration data is available in Find a Mass that's a customer of ours, and they can reach out. And it's just a great way for people that are looking, whether they're traveling or looking for a church to go to. It's a great tool for them to be able to find, and the parishes don't have to do anything more than what they normally do. So that's an exciting thing. And then the second area that I'll touch on is with our ChMS platform, which is the product. We bought a product called GabrielSoft. We were really fortunate to work with Armin Brunel and his team back in 2021 and acquired that and made that part of the eCatholic family of products, and really powerful church management software solution that we've further adopted into our fold and rebranded now as eCatholic ChMS. And we're beginning to explore ways within that platform to use new technology, AI technology, to allow customers to get answers to questions in a safe, secure way about their parishioners without having to know how to write SQL to get down at the database level. So more to come on that. Very early with that. We're giving it to a couple of people to try out, but those are just some very small very, very small examples of things that we're doing. I could probably talk to you all day about all the different threads that we have going on right now in the company on an engineering and development and product front. And it excites me. We are rapidly iterating and investing heavily into this company and to the products we're bringing to market.
I was interested to know where you were going to go with that question, because I knew I was opening up a can of worms, because there is just so much going on. How do you select just a few? And as you alluded to earlier, we're really just beginning. We're going to continue to innovate on these products to better serve the church. And as we wrap up, just a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Outside of our exciting products and features, which is at the core of what we do, are there other initiatives going on at eCatholic that you're excited about as we just continue to develop even more resources for parishes and Catholic organizations?
Yeah, I mean, yes. First and foremost, we're experiencing one of those ways right now at this new Engaged Parish podcast. I think it's been amazing to see, Mike, what you and Brandon have done to bring this new form of communication forward on behalf of the eCatholic family to our customers. And some people that maybe listen to this, maybe this is your first time to ever hear the Engaged Parish podcast, but there's already a immense library of great insight available through this podcast. And I think it's just another way that we can serve the church and our customers by bringing this content forward. So that's the first thing. Another thing that I am really excited about, and I think I'm okay to talk about it here, is we are this year going to have our first ever eCatholic Summit, the Engage virtual summit. Really excited about that. It's happening October 21st and 22nd. I think you can go get tickets today at summit.ecatholic.com. I think I got that right, Mike. And it is, there you go. It's on the screen. And this is the first time we've ever done this, and I can't tell you how excited I am about the speakers that we're bringing forward that are going to just open up a whole new world of knowledge and information for our customers that are using our tools and that live inside of parishes and live inside of schools and live inside of ministries, about how they can be better at evangelizing. And that's an exciting initiative that's underway. So those are two things that come to mind.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the summit, and you are totally okay to mention it. Tickets are available for purchase right now. The speaker lineup just keeps getting better, as you alluded to. And Brandon and I were talking about it recently, and I really think this conference is going to obviously be practical. There's going to be takeaways for people to communicate better within the church, and also to evangelize better using digital means. It's also going to be inspirational, but it's also going to be somewhat challenging because I do think, as you point out earlier, it's time to rise to the occasion a little bit better as a church and reach that, as Pope Benedict XVI coined, digital continent to evangelize folks in today's culture and today's more digital world. One more question for you, Jason. Mm-hmm. What keeps you going each morning when you sit down at your laptop? And also, I guess it's a two-parter. How will eCatholic continue to serve the church going into the future?
Yeah, good two-part question to end on. I wake up every morning just excited about the mission that we're on to serve the church and to fulfill the mission the church has for evangelization. And the way that we do that, the way that we're blessed to do that, is by bringing the best possible tools, technology, and people forward that we can to support our customers each and every day. And I can promise you, I'm not the only one that wakes up in the morning thinking about it and goes to sleep at night thinking about it. Everybody at eCatholic does. And for anybody that has ever worked directly with eCatholic, whether it's with our services organization and seeing the amazing things that they've been able to do, or our support organization just to get help to solve a problem, that we are ready to do whatever it takes to support our customers. And I think not only just support our customers, but support our customers in a uniquely Catholic way. We are focused on the Catholic Church and the mission of the Catholic Church. We're not trying to be all things to all people. We have a very specific mission that we're on with this company and the tools that we're building. And I just know that we're just starting to scratch the surface here. And I think this goes to your second question. There's so much more that we can be doing. I talked about We've had the website product. We just overhauled our live streaming platform with a great new partner that has been amazing. We are in the process and we'll be doing a lot more work in the coming months around our payments platform. We've launched our new communications platform and really just getting started there. And then, of course, we have this powerful ChMS platform that our customers and dioceses can use to really tap in and understand their flock and their parishioners and their members. And that's the beginning. Like there is no reason that our customers shouldn't be able to come to us and know they are getting a world-class product. They're getting the best possible product that they could get that not only serves what they need, but serves them in a Catholic way. And then they have the people there to back them up. And that, that's what differentiates us. That's what makes a difference for us. We have 5 core values that we talk about all the time at eCatholic. We make our hiring decisions based on those core values, and they're very straightforward. Be humble, be a team player, be passionate about what you do and who we serve, work hard and work smart, and then the last one is create wow experiences, and that comes into doing whatever you can to create wow, whether you're doing it by talking and supporting a customer today, or you're working on fixing a bug that a customer has reported. There is an opportunity to make the product better, to make it more secure, to make it more reliable. And every day we come to work ready to do that. So the last thing I'll say real quick, and you didn't ask this, but I'm just going to point it out because you mentioned it earlier. We're having this podcast on the feast of the day of St. Joseph the Worker, the feast day for St. Joseph the Worker. And I think it's a real unique thing that we're having it today because, as you mentioned, he's a patron saint of eCatholic. We have a team meeting every Wednesday, and we always say St. Joseph the Worker prayer. But it just reminds us that work as individuals and as humans, the goal of work is not just for monetary means and ends. That's fine and that's great. And we all need money to survive and live, and we want the best for our families, and there's nothing wrong with that. But work has a spiritual dimension to it as well. It has a meaning. And that's, whether you look at St. Joseph the Worker as the carpenter, he worked to support his family, which had Jesus Christ as the Son of God and his son. And we have that same opportunity to do that. And it doesn't have to just be because we work for a Catholic company. That doesn't mean that you can't have that meaning and that purpose. You can do it wherever you are. But I just think that that's really cool that today is the feast of St. Joseph the Worker and that we're having this podcast. So
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And you mentioned, just speaking from my own heart real quick, the cultural element of eCatholic, the team weekly prayer before all of our individual meetings as teams, leading that in prayer. I think that's been true of eCatholic since day one. And for all the clients out there that are listening, we pray for you each week as well. So I think that just permeates the culture here. And as you mentioned, everyone wakes up ready to get to work to serve the church and our clients in any way that we can. So as we wrap up, specifically for eCatholic clients who are listening to this episode, what do you want to leave with them?
Yeah. I just want them to know that we're really just getting started, and they're seeing the tip of what we're going to do and where we're going. And, sometimes it might not always make sense when you're on the other side and you're being asked to maybe do things a little differently than you've ever done them before. But I think you'll start to see in the coming months and over the course of the next couple of years, the path that we're on. We have a roadmap to get to this goal of being the engagement platform of the Catholic Church, and we're headed in the right direction. Bear with us, keep trusting us. We believe in you. Keep believing in us.
It's an exciting time to be part of eCatholic. Thank you, Jason, so much for your time. Thank you for your leadership. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mike.